like a chisel, flat on one side and tapered, and it's split like a quill pen. Alright, so as you press it down into the ink goes up in there, and that's how you draw your lines. So this square has knife edges on it, because if it's a square edge, you draw the ink, it bleeds back under it and makes a real mess. I said yesterday, you go to a Japanese crew, you can tell who the boss is because his hands are clean. Everybody else gets it on your hands, it's on your nose, or wherever you scratch yourself. So that's kind of the joke with the Japanese carpenters. So this usually lay out with ink because it's a very definite clean line to see. You can't draw circles with this. This end is used for drawing straight lines with a square. This end is mashed as a pencil, and you're marking waste. Or every piece has a name. They put that name on there, and it's on the ink. And then plane that off, it's right on the surface. The thinnest shaving cleans that off. They usually don't lay out with a marking knife. It's hard to get that groove out of there. They do. It's very contained just within that. So one of the things I brought here is this little guy. The double marking knife. It's got an adjustable nut in here, and that gives you the width. So when you put a mark out the width of the Kamiko, you got that set right there. You got your square. You draw that line right there. It scratches in both sides, and you cut inside that line. That gives you that fit. I don't use this that much myself, but that's one of the traditional tools they use. So again, we're using chisels, and I use the plane first to square up the lumber. This is Port Orford cedar, which is very similar to the hinoki that's used in Japan. The other wood that's used is western red cedar. It's called sugi, S-U-G-I. Again, these woods, this one has a lot of tannic acid in it, which makes it hold up good to weather and bugs don't eat much. I'm not sure what's in the hinoki that makes it last. This piece is a piece of Alaskan yellow cedar. It's got kind of a sweet sour mash smell. First time I smelled it, oh wow, they're making whiskey around here. It's the smell of the wood. This wood has a similar smell, but it's much sweeter. This is a little sour smell to it, and if you mill it, the whole room, I make shoji out of this, the room smells this way for probably 6 months. If you come back and take a damp rag and wipe it off, it'll reactivate the oils in there. I know that they made some perfume out of this smell.
Do you have any experience with Katsura or Kaya?
Not much, a little bit.
Do they have Western equivalents that they from here?
Yeah, California, we get California nutmeg, which is Kaya, yellow kind of wood.
Right.
Those are one of the woods I planed it. It's not something that's available that much because it's not a forest. You find them you grow along riverbanks and things, and it's a spotty kind of thing. You don't get them in forests. I got some from this guy. He was a computer guy, but his hobby was going up into the mountains, all these little mills and buying weird grain woods and stuff, and he found this Kai, and I bought a couple pieces. And I planed it, and I came back the next day, and it was laying on the bench, and I thought I had all this tear out. When I actually looked at it, the wood was actually smooth. It was just the grain that was in the wood looked like fat top of chicken soup. That's what it kind of looked like. It was all these little bubble-looking things, but it was just the way the grind. I don't know how it grew that way, but it worked that way. So, I work a lot of different stuff. I use a lot of red cedar outside. I use Port Orford. I make things out of wingay elm. I use for furniture and things. So interior, there's a lot more advantage to use different woods. Outside, you're going to put all that work into it. You want it to last. And I try to buy the best quality wood that I can, the budget will allow. So we got this old growth red cedar from up in British Columbia, which I hate to think about what they had to do to the forest up there. But we figured, so one of the things I get the students to do is take a piece of wood and look at the grain growth in here. So we had like a 6x6. We could get a pretty big arc, so we would extend that arc to see how big of the tree was. So I'm trying to get people to realize this is not a product you pay $4 a board, $10 a board foot for. This was a living tree, where it came from. So we were figuring some of these logs that we were using were up to 12 feet in diameter. They're like 1,500 years old. Because you could figure out where the arc is, and we'd lay it out on the table, take a string, and we'd measure the diameter. If the radius was 6 feet, and we could count an inch. There's 50 growth rings in an inch, 20, 35, whatever it was, and then we'd average that times, you know, and there's you figure, that's 1,200 years, can that be true? You know, you just go with the chainsaw and mow it down. I know in the Bay Area, there was a redwood forest where white man got there. And it was up on the hill is where the Golden Gate comes in, so the old sailing ships, when they would be out to Farallon Islands, which are 22 miles off the Golden Gate Bridge there now, they could see this tall redwood tree to know where the Golden Gate was. Why cut it down? Why somebody would, I don't know, it just, you know, it couldn't be that much money in it. So anyway. So this piece I did a little groove yesterday doing sampling, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a corner. So screens can be made flat, both pieces the same size. They can be made offset like this, where there's more reveal. The thing is that you need to remember if you're making them this way, the back side, there's a front and a back, an inside and an outside. Japanese put the paper on the outside, usually it's just one side of Kumiko. Interior or other fancier places, they got a sandwich construction that's Kumiko on both sides. But traditionally, the paper was on the outside so that it didn't pick up leaves and dirt and stuff, and all the Kumiko was on the inside. So what you got to remember is it's got to be flat on one side so you can glue the paper to it. You know, you couldn't center this up because you couldn't glue the paper on to keep it even. So it has to be offset. So if you're doing it that way, what you want to do is get the mortise lined up in the middle of this piece, so it's offset on this one. Because you look at the edge and the mortise is offset, it just looks weird. So it's just a matter of calculating where the center of this piece is and fitting this piece into that way so it looks the same. Like those pieces over here. So again, these pieces aren't the same size, but the mortise is lined up in the middle and it looks better than if it was offset. Small detail. You know, again, these kind of details, doing it by hand, I can do all kinds of joints you don't do with machines. I said, I'm the only person I know anywhere that does it by hand. Japanese guys, they got computer-made stuff now that works with like popsicle sticks. It's unbelievable. I don't know if you can even do that by hand.
Glue that attaches the paper.
Traditionally, they used rice glue, nice rice, and they mash it up into a paste. I've tried that. It doesn't work too good because all the sugar in there, the next thing you know, it's got boxing going on and mildew, so you got to put something in there to do. I use, which I'll get into later, but I use the product they make. It's, I don't know what it's made out of. It's called Nori. It's just a water-soluble glue. You can use any kind of water-soluble glue. You got to take the paper off. You don't want to epoxy it on there or anything. I used some archival glue. I think it's like a hide glue or something for a while till they started bringing all this stuff in. But any water-soluble glues, you got to be able to take it off. So let's do this flat and make them even. All right, I'll do it this way, and I'll show you how to do them all set. So the first thing I'm going to do with joinery is I'm going to isolate the common area. That's where all the joinery is going to happen. So inside those common areas on both pieces, I can get my proportions for what the pieces are. So let me mumble myself here for a minute. Go here.
Does anyone know how to like turn these big lights off? So it's just like
without turning the camera off.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to show up on the director more normally.